Stop. Talk to me.
We're back with Stop and Talk. Grant, good to see you.
It is great to see you and great to be here in the context of a conversation that we just had with Jonathan Gluss, who is the Prebys Fellow in the Arts for San Diego, working at the San Diego Downtown Partnership on a big vision for reinventing our downtown through arts, culture, and creativity.
I am excited to have him here because I recall he was at the city before this.
He was at the city before this. I think we saw an opportunity, and the city saw an opportunity, frankly, for him to play an even larger role in this sort of independent way. And he is really helping San Diego rethink the role of creativity in revitalizing downtown and making it be the place that we want it to be as a world-class city.
Yeah. I'd love to just hear the conversation and see you on the other side.
Okay. All right, Jonathan Gluss, thank you so much for joining me.
I'm glad to be here.
It is a delight. And I want to say, people heard about you in the run-up to the program, but you are the real deal when it comes to being a national expert on the arts. And I think where I want to begin is to talk about what you believed you took on when you stepped into this role as a Prebys Fellow working on the arts in San Diego, and what attracted you to that role?
I ran 5 local arts organizations, local arts agencies, So I've been doing the work for a long time. This has given me the opportunity to really focus very intentionally on an identified area. So that's one thing. But number 2, cities go through these cycles. And San Diego is at this point where we're going through another phase of growth. And I really want to be part of that change. Prebys is leading it. So it was just a perfect fit.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate your attribution to Prebys. I think there are a lot of players, including the Downtown Partnership, which you're working closely with on this, and a host of folks in the creative and design community who are interested in this. It is interesting that you characterize it as a time of growth, because it could equally be characterized as a time of challenge, where we're struggling to redefine what our downtown is about, in a way that a lot of cities around the world are struggling to redefine what their downtown's about, and certainly in this country. And I am curious to hear what excites you about doing this work at this time, given that it's sort of on the knife's edge between the good and the bad, and the potential and the things that got us here to needing new potential.
I think that's I think that's what's exciting about it. You and I have talked about this, though, before. Yeah. We've seen cities in the United States go through these evolutions. And to your point, it's happening all over the world. We know how American cities in the 70s and 80s were really at a point where they, in so many ways, they were bottomed out. I mean, a lot of American cities, you witnessed that in Pittsburgh. And through a lot of visioning and determination and centering arts, we rebuilt our cities. We have this opportunity to do it again. And I think one of the things that's very exciting to me is the fact that we, as a nation, have been very intentional about building cultural institutions and cultural infrastructure. We're now centering creatives and creativity. And that's a wholesale change for us. And that's extraordinarily exciting to me.
Say a little bit more about that difference between institutions and creatives and artists.
Americans want to understand creative process. They want to be part of it. And we've seen this in everything from the way that we watch media and the voice and how people want to be part of that experience. Today, people don't necessarily want to be to have to see or experience art and culture through a lens that has been given to them. They actually want to be part of it, to experience it, to see it up front, to be part of the craft making. And by centering the actual individuals, the creatives that are doing the work, people feel like they're part of the process, they're part of the experience. And I think because of that, the creatives become more part of the community. Mm-hmm. And I'd say, wearing my longtime advocacy hat, I've been in the trenches for a long time doing arts advocacy work at all levels. We used to advocate for institutions. Institutions are bedrock. We must continue to invest in them. But it's really now about ensuring that we have creatives and creative workforce in place and protected. Mm-hmm. And I think that's just more of the larger conversation of making sure that people have the opportunity to do their creative work, aspire to what they really want to do, what they believe in, and making space and place for them in our communities.
Right. I love all of that. I think it's important to remind people that you said something earlier about how we had both seen this in our careers and in our experience, mm-hmm. the process of the arts playing a role in helping a city rebirth itself, in mm-hmm. essence. And certainly I saw that in Pittsburgh with the Pittsburgh Cultural Trust, which really is the reason that even today there is a functioning downtown in that city, is because of the role that culture played in anchoring people to the community, bringing people into the core. It's been a part of a city like Chicago's history, where you've seen the arts and culture play such a role in redefining what the experience of being in downtown Chicago is. Here in San Diego, we're having a conversation about the Civic Center and when the original Civic Center was built, for all its myriad of flaws in its design. They had the right idea in putting a theater at the heart of it. And so there's been an understanding for a long time, I think, for a couple of generations now, that if you want a city to be lively and for people to want to be there, the arts play a role in that. Mm-hmm. There's also a very old canard, which is true, which is that if you want to turn a declining area around, bring in the artists, and they will take up residence, and they will start doing their work there, and they will make the area attractive to other people, and that happens over and over again. I guess my question is, if we know all of that, why are we having to do it again here in this beautiful city?
That is the big question.
Well, you did run all of this for the city for a period of time. I'm not blaming you. I'm really not. But you were, you've had the best, I think, vantage point in some ways. Mm-hmm. So why is it important that we do this again? Yeah. And what have we learned from these past efforts?
Firstly, market forces are market forces. Mm. And we have seen in every city, as you mentioned, that we built out these urban cores with artists and creative businesses, and very importantly, the institutions that we invested in. That brought a lot of people back into those urban cores to live, to work, mm-hmm. etc., which also meant that the artists and creatives could no longer afford to live there, to work there. Right. So following that, COVID changed the way we live, all of us. And then people can now live and work in, rural Arizona and still have a creative business, a creative life, a creative role in really connecting to any city they want to. And I think that's one of the most important things is creatives are local, creative industries are local, but they don't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
So the creative talent that comes up through our public schools or our communities that are so unique to San Diego, they can, and we've been witnessing them moving to pure and aspirational cities elsewhere. And a lot of that is not because, firstly, it's the cost, of course. Secondly, it's access to space. But thirdly, and really importantly, it's about brand and invitation.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say invitation, I mean just simply communities telling artists and creatives, we want you to be part of the fabric here. We value what you bring to a community. But you have to do that intentionally. You actually have to say to these individuals, just like you do in other industries, we want you to be here.
Mm.
And a lot of times it doesn't take much more than that. Just making sure that the dots are connected, that the introductions are made, that common spaces are created, and those folks know that they are a valued part of the civic dialogue. And they can actually make a living at the same time.
Has your experience been that, you talked about affordability. Is San Diego a tough town to be an artist in?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I think one of our savings graces over the last 15 years has been the fact that we are a border city and artists and creatives can actually live and work in Tijuana and still do business here in San Diego. Mm-hmm. If that wasn't the case, it would be extremely hard to function here because of prices and because of the physical landscape that we talked about a little bit ago. We've transitioned a lot of our warehouse spaces, for example, into live work spaces, business spaces, what have you. So kind of the natural type of places that our artists are going to gravitate to. We've built out a lot of that. Mm-hmm. So we see them going to the desert. We see them going to the mountains, certainly down to Baja. We also see them going to the Denvers and the Austins and the Portlands of the world that have more of a brand that is about
I was going to say, they're not exactly cheap cities either.
No.
But you're saying they have more of an invitation. I mean, I wanted to ask you about this because you've had a front row seat to many of the best examples of the intersection between placemaking, economy, and the arts around the world of anybody.
Mm-hmm.
What have you seen that you consider to be the best and most promising models that we should be paying attention to? Is it the Denvers and the Portlands and the Austins? And if it is, what is the model? More important than the place, I think.
Those cities have been really successful in their own right. Austin is a great example of a city that really built on their music industry, as you know. I'm really interested in it these days in the creative enterprise zones that are being stood up in cities like London and Sydney. There's a neighborhood in London called Hackney Wick that is an old industrial area.
First of all, great name.
Right? Right. It's evolving very quickly. It's kind of like a Williamsburg, New York, 15 years ago. And the city of London looked at it and said, this is an incredibly important place because it is historically an artist district. Mm-hmm. We know gentrification is going to happen. So we're going to provide essentially guardrails, policy guardrails, to ensure that creative businesses and artists can flourish here. So if you walk down the street in that neighborhood now, you see the small pop-ups for small fashion lines, and you see the artist studios and the bookstores and that kind of thing. But what's really intriguing is right across the river, you're at the Victoria and Albert East building, which is the new V&A building
Mm-hmm.
for contemporary arts, and the fashion school. So there's this intentional connection to the creative process and the presentation. It's a fascinating area, and you want to be there. It's really interesting just to walk around.
And you referred to that as a creative district or
Creative enterprise zone.
enterprise zone. Okay. What other models have you seen that you consider to be promising as potential tools for San Diego or reference points?
Sure. In a very different way,
Mm-hmm.
some of the work that is happening in Dubai is really fascinating. Obviously, there's a lot of resources. But again, they are very intentionally building out infrastructure for small creative businesses as well as arts and culture. In a lot of ways, they're doing it through kind of major festival activities, the design biennale, the art biennale that they do, inviting individual artists for like residency programs. So they are positioning themselves as a global destination.
And of course, as you said, it's tough to compare ourselves with Dubai.
Yes.
And it's a very complicated part of the world at the moment, but tremendous resources and that they've used. And it's interesting to hear that they've used also to promote the arts and culture arena. When you look at the landscape around the U.S., I would like you to name the cities that you think we could learn from. Who do you think has done something exceptionally well in terms of connecting the revitalization of their downtown for a new era with the importance of arts and culture and creativity?
I think some of the most interesting cities are the small and mid-sized cities. Grand Rapids, Michigan.
I was not expecting that. All right, so say more.
Grand Rapids, Michigan has a deep tradition of design through Herman Miller and some of the other design companies there. They established the Art Prize there. They're rebuilding the waterfront with an emphasis on arts organizations and creative businesses. And it's a city of maybe 150,000 people, so it's compact. But they're really centering their traditions of art and design on this reimagining the city.
What else? You started to name a list, and Grand Rapids was small and mid-sized cities. So what would be another example?
The Riverwalk in Indianapolis.
Ah, interesting.
The museum corridor there.
Yeah. One long continuous strand of connected cultural spaces.
Exactly.
Right. Interesting. Is that more a marketing thing or is it a real transformation of a downtown through arts and culture?
I think that city has actually seen a transformation. It has kind of the dual parallels between, its deep commitment to sports and building on that, and then art and culture building their version of art and culture along the waterway. Both history museums, the State Museum, the Art Museum, all there in a concentrated way, and a really beautiful, beautiful, beautiful space. So I would suggest that is actually by intent and by design.
So when you're talking to people about the relevance of models like that to San Diego, where do you point to say, look, San Diego has got such an incredible opportunity, but we ought to learn from X? Where do you point them?
When we're talking about organizations or spaces like Balboa Park that is already there, where we're talking about institutions that are in a space already. I think a lot about Houston, where I did spend 10 years.
Right.
Because of the way that philanthropy and government and individuals came together to invest in probably 8 cultural districts at this point. But very, very, very importantly, in the museum district and the theater district, it was an agreement that all of those live on park spaces. And so part of investing in the cultural institutions is also about investing in those park spaces. So philanthropy for the last 20 years has spent a lot of time making sure that those green spaces in a city that's not very hospitable weather-wise are beautiful, but also arts rich.
Right.
So that's one of the first ones that I point to. The other thing is, in a lot of these cities, it is also about lifetime experiences. So art high schools have been built in the Dallas Cultural District, the Houston Cultural District, Theater District, I think Philadelphia. And so there's a very clear intent that the experience and the work that's happening in those institutions can actually benefit the students that are in those high schools.
It also creates an ongoing population of interest that cares about the role of the arts in the community and feeds what could be a virtuous cycle for the sake of the community. All right, so let's be practical about doing this in a city, though. When you're working with the Downtown Partnership, tell us why the Downtown Partnership cares about you and the work you're doing in the arts space, and how you make the case to the broader community about why downtown matters through the eyes of an agent for creatives.
I love that title. Thank you.
Sure.
It's really interesting to be working with the folks at the partnership. They are very committed to that footprint of downtown, and that is their obligation. Top to bottom, everything from the physical experience of keeping downtown clean, keeping it well lit, keeping it safe, but that's just where the work begins. They have to make sure that all of the property owners and the retail in downtown all feel like they are part of a common vision and a common conversation. So a lot of their work is just convening to make sure that everyone in downtown feels like they're moving in the same direction. I have learned a great deal since I've been working so closely with the partnership and the kind of conversations these downtown associations all over the world are having. And what's fascinating is they are all having the same conversation, that art and design, art and culture, creative expression, creative experiences are the driving force in this next iteration of Central Cities. So it's perfectly aligned. It's perfect timing. In a very practical sense, every American city has empty spaces in their buildings, whether it's storefront spaces or it's high-rises, and we have real needs in housing our organizations and our individuals. So there's a great alignment here. I guess the other thing that I would say about it is downtown associations understand how people want to gather and want to experience the marketplace, whatever the marketplace is. And we've seen that through pop-up experiences and special events and those kind of things. And they're all creative driven. It's really fascinating.
Yeah. I think it's fascinating that you, you just said something that we should call out, which is that downtown associations and organizations like them around the world are all keying in on the importance of creatives and artists and culture in the next round of what cities are about. That's a really significant statement. And I'm curious how well positioned do you think San Diego is for that next round of reinvention? You know, when we, the Prebys Foundation, got into the Civic Center work, we did have a conversation with the mayor where we said to Mayor Gloria, hey, you know, there is a huge opportunity here to be in the vanguard of reinventing what downtowns are about. Let us help you figure that out. To his credit, he engaged in that process. We're now well down the road around a conversation about the Civic Center, which is leading in a really promising new direction, and now is anchored much more deeply in a broader visioning or broadening vision around a creative downtown. But conversations and words are one thing. Glimmers of hope are another. You know, they come from sparks and actual things on the ground. What are you seeing where you're seeing San Diego moving in the right direction on this?
So firstly, I would say downtown is incredibly well positioned. I mean, we already have the outer rings of downtown that are well received, that we've already built out for tourists and kind of big experiences like Petco Park. So people understand that downtown has the potential to be incredibly important to their lives. At the same time, and we have that our region's crown jewel just on the north side of downtown called Balboa Park.
Which is extraordinary.
Extraordinary.
Underfunded, though.
Very much.
That took too long.
Very much.
Yeah.
But people love that park. And we've learned over the last 4 months that park is beloved in this region.
Right. Because of the paid parking.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Issue. Right. Yeah.
But it does mean that people want to embrace and are hungry for civic commons and civic spaces, whatever that means.
Right.
And we know we don't have that real civic commons in downtown.
Yeah.
We also have a built environment that's actually really nice. We have beautiful historic buildings downtown that we don't necessarily celebrate in the way that we could. We have some large boulevards. We have really solid corporate buildings that were built in the 70s and 80s that are ready for revitalization. And I've learned that we also have a lot of property owners that are very eager to be part of the next iteration of downtown. So I think we're perfectly positioned. What we don't have is those experiences, and I'm particularly focused on art and design experiences, but thinking of even like the flower festivals that happen in other cities, things that bring people together in very ephemeral ways that aren't necessarily about high dollar, but they are about wonderful civic experiences. We haven't really leaned into those kind of things that are going to get people to think differently about this place.
And why haven't we? Why is that missing?
I think two things. I think number one, the common understanding or the common belief is its resources. The common belief is resources. I think it's more about will and intent. We know that in every community there is that individual or that organization or that time and place where things are aligned that end up bringing major changes or major events. I just don't think that's happened. And then very specifically, downtown has just been seen as a business place. I can tell you as somebody who lives downtown, I don't necessarily feel like as a downtown resident, I am invited into the conversation about the future of downtown.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
And I want to be part of that. And I think the residents of downtown want to be part of the larger. And that's I'm not saying that in any way discrediting the partnership. They do incredible work. It's just the larger dialogue of what this place is.
I was going to say that's more of a civic dynamic than it
Yeah.
is. Yeah. I really want to press on this one point because I think it is important to have clarity around it in any conversation about a downtown
Mm-hmm.
in this era. And it requires a little bit of setup, so bear with me.
Sure.
but we are living in a remote work era,
Mm-hmm.
and people, we're seeing a lot of return to the office too. So, there's a counterbalance here, but a lot of people are working remotely at least part of the time. We have a wealth class in American society that is becoming increasingly unmoored from place,
Mm-hmm.
where they travel the world. If they don't like the taxes in California, they move to Florida. We're seeing a lot of that at the moment. If they're not loving the experience of being in downtown, they move to the suburb, which is an old habit in American society. But the role of place is, I think, more contested than it ever has been in the past. And some people looking at this conversation that you and I are having, and if they're watching it, they may be having this feeling, would say, who cares if downtown survives or not? Who cares if there is this space? Because I can get it by going wherever or moving wherever or living wherever. And that's certainly true of people if they've got extraordinary means to do it. But is this truly contested space, or do you believe people still want to see the success of their downtown and their civic core in a community?
I will bet that person who leaves San Diego to move to X, part of their attraction is because of the urban core of that place they choose to move to.
I love that. I believe I would guess you're right.
What do we do when we travel? What are those cities that we actually all want to go to, regardless of resources? We talk about Paris as a very classical tradition or example, but we talk about Paris because it's a beautiful place. It's a walkable place. The built environment is extraordinary, and it's activated, and it's green, and there's buskers that, are quirky too. I mean, it's lively. People want that. We talk about the marketplace. I don't necessarily, when I think of the marketplace, I'm not talking about an abstract place. I'm talking about literally the plaza, whether it is where the vendors are selling fish 400 years ago, or it's the mall, or it's that downtown commons. But we all want that experience of being together. And every successful city has this urban core that people love, that people gravitate to, whether it's for a celebration of what happened with your sports games, or it's a celebration of, political life, or it's a celebration of the ethos of the city. People love that. They want to be part of it. And art and culture is always a driving part of that. Always.
I think that's such a fascinating concept, and I just completely agree, and I think it's a wonderful statement that, in a way what you're saying is if people become unmoored from a place, it's partly because another place is out competing it in terms of the dynamism and vibrancy of its place, and arts and culture are very typically a part of that. I think that's right. I think I'm not willing to concede that to Florida. It's a different conversation. When you think about San Diego, though, why are we slow to get it in terms of the importance of having a creative downtown? Why are you having to help us lead this conversation now?
I would suggest it's two things. One is there is a reality of resources, available resources here.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that local government does not have the resources to adequately do what it wants to do.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that. And philanthropy cannot do everything. Private sector cannot do everything.
Mm.
With that said, I think it is a question of imagination and grit.
Mm.
And when I say imagination, San Diego struggles to really decide what it wants to be. We are in this phase of change, but are we a major global city with a major global downtown, or are we a region that has a lot of successful places and spaces and bubbles and hubs? I don't think San Diego's really figured that out yet.
Yeah.
And then the other thing that I would say about it is regarding grit, it's hard work to do it. And you need to be at the table together. You need to, when I say you, it does take government, philanthropy, private sector leadership, and community leadership to get this kind of stuff done, as we've seen time and time again in different cities.
Yeah, and I want to ask you about how you think that constellation of forces can get it done. But I want to just stay on this subject for a moment longer around the factors that have held us back. Don't you think part of it, too, is that we're a young city that has benefited from both the legacy of the past, Balboa Park, and the extraordinary asset that is, and the incredible natural beauty of the place where we are situated? I mean, this is a beautiful place to live, work, and play, just period, because you're between the park and the water, and it's a gorgeous place in terms of weather. Does that make us take for granted what we have and not lean into what we yet need to create?
Yes. Thank you for framing it that way. With that said, I do think of other cities that are also blessed with environments like this. Barcelona is a great example of a city that it's as far as the environment is beautiful, and it is oceanfront, but it is also a beautiful, active, animated city.
Right.
We can have both.
Right.
We just have to choose to have both.
Great. All right. So you mentioned this constellation of forces that can help make that happen in government and business and civic groups and philanthropy. What do they need to do working together to make this happen, this transformation that you're talking about?
Firstly, we have to have the big vision. I'm not sure when we're talking about the urban core, we certainly are working towards bettering the urban core. We know that we need to continue to house our population. We need to animate and activate downtown. But at the end of the day, what is the real vision? I'm not sure we really have that in place yet. And that is...
Do we need I'm sorry to interrupt, but do we
it's
need
fine.
a sophisticated vision? Doesn't this process in many other places begin with inroads being made by artists and creatives? Or does it, in the context of a downtown, do you really need to have that broader vision that sets the table for everyone?
It's such a great question. I would say yes and I'm thinking about when Millennial Park was being built in Chicago. That was a grand vision at that time.
Right. And everybody now talks about Millennial Park.
Of course.
Yeah.
And it's and that was 20 years in the making. And in the early days of that project, it was 4 corporate leaders and the mayor that said, we are going to get there quietly until they actually got to the point where they could go public. So while that was happening, downtown was animated with, firstly, there was the School of the Art Institute.
Mm-hmm.
Those students truly were animating downtown.
Mm-hmm.
There was spaces for them to do that. Informal studios, a lot of illegal things were happening. When I say illegal things, I mean just
everybody
using
can
this.
use their imagination.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Thank you. So there was a sense of enthusiasm and informal creative expression that was happening all over that kind of lent to this spirit of we're going to expand the creative experience of this part of the city.
Right.
And it worked.
Did they do that in the context of a scarcity mindset?
No.
Yeah. So how do we overcome our scarcity mindset in San Diego? You alluded to this earlier, but and some of it is real. We're operating in a period in city finances when the city finances are very constrained. Every idea for new revenue is hotly contested. One lost recently at the ballot box. We mentioned paid parking as an idea in Balboa Park and saw what happened there, and yeah, I interpret that as people love their park and access to their park, and they don't want that to be used as an ostensible revenue source for the city's broader problems. But there is a scarcity of resources, or certainly a mindset around that. And yet, none of those other cities that built big parks, or even Balboa Park for that matter, ever did it without making a public investment of some kind. And philanthropy plays a role, and certainly business should play a role, but so should the body politic. And are we? How do we get past this moment of thinking in terms of what we can't do to what we can?
I'm thinking about COVID and how...
I'm sorry.
Not very long ago, all of us were in a tremendous space of scarcity.
Mm-hmm. And
we started planning for post-COVID.
Mm.
So we know that the financial issues with the city are going to change.
Yeah.
So we need to be planning.
Mm-hmm.
But I think before we get there, this is the time where we can really be piloting a lot of the creative work and the creative expression that actually will move us. Well, number one, move us in that direction. But number two, just demonstrate that we have the creative talent here. And I'm thinking about the fact that 80% of the businesses in San Diego are small businesses.
Mm-hmm.
So we already are driven by kind of a entrepreneurial mentality. Yeah. Artists are entrepreneurs.
Mm.
So if we're investing in small creative businesses and the work of individual artists in downtown, the aggregate effect of that actually is substantial. And that's going to elevate the visibility of this type of work. It's going to make us feel like there really is possibility around this as the larger resources become available.
Now, you've put together an advisory group of 41 or so people in and around downtown who are engaged in some way, shape, or form as a stakeholder in this concept of a creative downtown, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Are they excited? Are they fired up? What do you hear from them about helping to develop a vision for a creative downtown?
We had our first meeting yesterday,
mm-hmm.
And it was really wonderful. It was 41 folks that are economic development leaders, policy wonks, downtown stakeholders, and in addition to that, and primarily creatives. So the individuals that run the arts organizations downtown, but also the creative businesses, designers, etc. They are so hungry for this. they want place. They want a hub. They want this space to actually work together, to share, to be recognized, to be invited. Some of what I was talking about earlier, I think the idea of actually, I want to pause on that. I want to say something else. The other cities, and I say this with no disrespect to the wonderful institutions in San Diego, but there are initiatives in other cities like Pacific Standard Time in Los Angeles that galvanizes the nonprofits in a very important way.
Yeah, say a little bit more about Pacific Standard Time, because not everybody will know what that is.
So it's a Getty initiative.
It's not the time zone. Right.
It's not.
Yeah.
Pacific Standard Time is an initiative from the Getty Foundation. They invest in as few as 45 and maybe as much as 80 museums and other nonprofit arts organizations across the region, coming all the way down to San Diego, around a common theme every 3 years. What that does is that creates the opportunity for the education staff in those institutions to work together, the marketing staff to work together, the executive team to work together, and all of the creative talent that work within those institutions, across those institutions, to work on common theme. It elevates the unique aspects of those organizations. A lot of times it's the first time that you see something out of the collections of the museums, for example, that you haven't seen before. And it drives audiences in a different way.
And your point in raising that as an example was to say that we're not seeing that same level of energy, coordination, what?
That we have the opportunity with
to
this,
do that
in this new district to do just that.
Oh, interesting. Okay. So when you think about what success looks like 5 years from now, if you're successful in this conversation you're kicking off and this advisory committee does its job, what are we going to see downtown that is different from what we experience today?
We will see an increased number of artists living in downtown in an affordable way. We'll see an increased number of artist studios or workspaces, maybe in high rises, maybe in the smaller buildings. We'll see storefronts that have creative businesses. We'll see festival-type activities that are all grounded in contemporary art. A brand that is a fresh brand that is about creative expression that is absolutely unique to San Diego. I think that is one of the things that is most important and most exciting. We have the opportunity to actually brand our creative expression, and we've never done that.
Say more about what you mean by that.
There's other cities that when you say the name of that city, you kind of instinctually know.
Austin and music.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, that isn't instinct. That's
Right.
because it was branded.
Right.
And that was communicated to you over years. We've never done that. But we can because we have the talent.
And what do you imagine the brand would be?
I'm not sure.
I didn't think you would take the bait, but I kind of had to ask.
Well, in part, I'm not sure because I think that's the job of creatives to tell us. And I am a facilitator, but I'm not a San Diego creative.
Last question, and then we should wrap up. And it kind of connects with the question I asked when I tried to get you to answer what the city's arts brand should be. But for a city that has the extraordinary arts assets that we do and the binational culture, it's interesting. If you ask people about a city in Southern California that was known for its binational arts scene, they would name L.A., not San Diego.
That's right.
And which breaks my heart, given what I know about this community. But if you look at the mix of arts that we have, which is extraordinary, the many ways in which we're excellent and the ways in which our arts community and creative community and cultural community all blend in unique aspects of the landscape and the local environment and the local population. We should be known as an extraordinary arts town, but we're not. So what would it take for us to make that leap?
An intentional effort. You've spoken a few different times about our natural environment. Everyone knows of San Diego because of our natural environment, and it is extraordinary, and we are the stewards of that. But on that landscape is a community of extraordinarily creative people. We have message to the world that we are an innovation center. We need to message to the world that we're a creative center as well. And the artists here are wholly unique to this region because of the natural environment and because we have this transborder aesthetic here that is not Los Angeles, it's not Orange County, it's not Baja. It's a very unique place and space. And the artists, we know artists actually respond to where they are. They respond to their environments. So the artists and creatives that we have here actually best reflect who we are. We just need to elevate the extraordinary work they're doing.
Well, I really appreciate that answer because I fully agree that we have all the makings of it, and we have the artists and the creative community for it. We just really need to have a concerted effort to become known for it.
Exactly.
And have it be a clear part of our brand. To go back to your point about the brand. All right, so I won't ask you again this time, maybe in the next program. Jonathan, really, thank you so much. I was delighted when we had a conversation some time ago about your next role that you were interested in taking this on. I think San Diego's really lucky to have you engaged in the way that you are in, and I think you're going to play a significant role in helping us reinvent what downtown San Diego is about. So thank you.
Thank you, Grant. I really appreciate that, and I'm honored to be here.
That was a really interesting conversation.
I really thought that it was significant when we were talking about who really cares if downtowns survive, the many different ways in which he could point to the role of creative centers as attractors of people, magnets for community, actually facilitators of community. I loved how he talked about people thirsting for a civic commons. We think of downtown as a place of business in San Diego because historically that's what it's been. But in other cities, it's been reinvented as a place where art happens.
Yeah. And I thought it was poignant at the moment where you two talked about people may leave here because another city and their downtown core is more attractive, or it offers parks, or it offers, arts and culture. Like, I think we don't talk about what attracts someone to a city. We usually talk about why someone leaves. And I think our new strategy around arts and culture are going to lend itself to hopefully attracting more people to downtown and being excited about that.
Yeah, and making downtown a place.
Right.
I think this idea, I'm struggling with this a lot in in thinking about how we make a real impact in San Diego, how unmoored from place our society has become. And this is one of the ways we help anchor people in this place in a way that they really want to be here. I also found it fascinating to ask him about examples, and he talked about creative enterprise zones and like London, but he also talked about Grand Rapids, Michigan, which I didn't expect. And I shared some of my experience in Pittsburgh, and we talked about Chicago, but Grand Rapids surprised me.
Right.
Indianapolis surprised me. And the point is we have amazing bones here, and we have an opportunity here, but we have a lot of folks to learn from.
Yeah. Well, and it makes a lot of sense, right? Like when you go on vacation, he mentioned, like, you go see different things in different downtowns.
Yeah.
And obviously we have something to offer because tourists keep coming here,
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
But I loved when he talked about the idea of the artist and the storefronts and how we're going to bring into fruition those physical locations for people to engage and see arts and culture, because I do think it will make a difference in how we experience downtown.
It's so funny how often we relearn this lesson, but it turns out that a lot of the answers to the challenges we're facing we've known for thousands of years.
Right.
And when it comes to cities, what people love is they love art and culture and creativity. They like cafes and walkability. They like public spaces that are inviting. They
Exactly.
like parks. They like access to nature. They like sidewalks that are welcoming. They want, people to be able to connect in convivial ways. And we can create more opportunities for that in San Diego.
Exactly. And I think Jonathan laid out for us what's possible there. I know in a future episode we will talk in greater detail about the benefit of that. So look forward to that episode in the near future. But I just really appreciate the way you two unpacked what's really happening downtown at this moment.
Well, that's a great place to wrap up.
Yeah.
Thank you for doing this with me.
Thanks for stopping and talking.
Stop. Talk to me.